Today on BRStv, we're going to discuss feeding your fish. We'll cover how to select a food that's right for you. Fish foods are one of those things that very few of us know anything about, so we're likely to just select the one with the best packaging, or maybe whichever one is cheapest. However, there's really a lot more to it than that. When selecting a food, I'm looking for a variety of things. The food should be nutritionally similar to the fish's natural diet. That means the largest ingredients should be algae-based or sea-based animals. Hopefully complete fish rather than byproducts. Many foods might have grains, fruits, or terrestrial animals like beef, but we suggest trying to select a food that lists these things as minor ingredients. This is pretty easy with frozen foods where it's fairly obvious what's in them, and you're unlikely to find things like beef heart, banana, or wheat grain mixed in with your shrimp. With dry, pellet, or flake foods, the ingredients are often listed on the side of the packaging or in the product description. If the ingredients aren't listed or fairly vague, the percentage of protein is a fairly good indicator of nutritional value and proportion of fruits, grains, and terrestrial meats. Generally, we like to see over 50% protein. The Elos marine and most of the fauna marin foods are fairly high in protein. We should also consider the fish's feeding habits and how the food behaves in the tank. Different types of fish like to eat from different areas of the tank, so I want to know if the food floats for long periods of time, sinks like a rock, or somewhere in between. Some foods like the Pro Breeder pellets from Aquatic sink fairly quickly, which makes it a nice food for bottom feeders. The Cyclopes wafers and Elospirulina pellets are buoyant and stay at the surface for a fairly long time, which is great for fish who like to feed at the surface. Keep in mind that many of the foods that float will end up going down the overflow if you don't take steps to prevent it. For fish that tend to eat from the middle of the water column, which is probably the most common, a slow sinking food is probably best. We set up this demo to show how differently some of the foods can behave. We found the fauna marin and Elos foods to be amongst the slowest sinking foods. Most thawed frozen foods like mysis shrimp are fairly slow sinking foods as well. It's important the food is palatable, meaning the fish like the size, taste, and texture of the food. If you see your fish gumming the food and spitting it out, it's likely too large for them to eat, or they don't like the texture and you should look for a different food. Many fish also like softer varieties of food, probably because it's easier to swallow and similar to their natural diet. In relation to all of these things, frozen foods are often the best options because they're the most similar in size, taste, and texture to many fish's natural diets. My personal favorite frozen food is a Pristine Energetics brand of mysis shrimp. It doesn't have any fancy fillers or marketing, just highly nutritious mysis shrimp. I also find the flat packs to have amazingly intact, plump, whole shrimp, which thaws with relatively little clouding. In dry foods, fauna marin has recently brought a new soft pellet to the market, which is, as the name suggests, a softer form of pellet designed to be more palatable to the fish. While it's impossible to know for sure what fish like best, I've been feeding a mix of the shrimp-based formula, spirulina, and clownfish formula for a few months with a lot of success. The last thing I consider is nutrient control in the tank. Fish food is easily the largest single source of nitrate and phosphate in the tank. Using a food that holds its shape longer and doesn't disintegrate will allow the fish a longer period of time to find the food, which in turn allows you to feed less and reduce the daily additions of nitrate and phosphate. Again, this is an area where frozen foods like the PE mysis are amongst the best options. The shrimp takes a very long time to break down and provides an enormous amount of time for the tank's fish, snails, and crabs to find it. Pellets and flake are a bit different. They start to dissolve almost immediately. You can see in this demo the difference between many of the pellet foods. We let the food rest for 3 minutes and stirred. Some of the foods disintegrate and cloud the water fairly quickly, and others there's little noticeable clouding. At this point, you might not be surprised that the fauna marin and Elos marine performed well here too. We were a bit surprised the fauna marin held up as well as it did. We figured the softer shrimp-based pellets would disintegrate faster due to the initial softness of the pellet, but that wasn't the case. In fact, it seemed to perform the best in this regard. For newer reefers, we often suggest starting with frozen foods for a couple of reasons. The first one is new reefers tend to overfeed, which can lead to excess nutrients like nitrate and phosphate, and possible algae issues. It's more difficult to overfeed if you have to thaw it before adding, and frozen foods are mostly water, which makes them less nutrient dense. While pellets are super convenient, they're very nutrient dense, which means you don't need to add very much to provide proper nutrition for your fish. For someone new to the hobby who doesn't know how much to feed, it's much easier to overfeed dry foods. If you do select a dry food because of the convenience and ease of use, we suggest putting some thought into the brand used, as the quality varies wildly. There's 100 different brands out there, and many of them are very good. Hopefully you can use this information to pick the right one for you and your tank. That wraps up today's episode. If you'd like to be notified when new episodes are released, subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit bulkreefsupply.com and sign up for our newsletter. Thank you for watching BRStv.